What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and today we are looking at some more Dawn of Majesty Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG reveals. We looked at a bunch of cards yesterday and even earlier in the week, but today we are covering even more cards. We have a couple new interesting cards in different situations. We have a new anti-negation card, which I think a lot of people are going to be excited about, because looking in the comment section of my own videos, it seems like people are really sick of getting their cards negated. If you're someone like that, one of these new cards is going to be pretty exciting to you, and I think it could make a pretty big competitive impact. If you guys enjoyed today's discussion, make sure to subscribe for more content, and if you missed some of the earlier OCG card reveal discussions, make sure to check out my previous videos from this past week. Those have pretty much been like every other video on the channel for the last like 7 days, because there have been so many card reveals. Anyway, this first card is called Master Model Diploman, a level 5 Dark Machine effect monster with 2000 attack and defense. If this card is tribute summoned, you can target one monster in your graveyard and one face-up monster your opponent controls. Equip that monster from the graveyard to that opponent's monster. While a monster is equipped this way, it loses attack equal to that equipped monster's. Your opponent's monsters equipped with equip cards you control cannot activate their effects. So this is sort of a two-part card here, because while it is true that when you equip the graveyard monster to your opponent's monster, it will negate its effects and make it lose attack points, that second effect is not only talking about the first effect. And what I mean by that is that if you have this card on the board and you play other equip spells that you are equipping to your opponent's monsters, they will not be able to activate those effects. So a lot of people might look at this card and think, okay, this card isn't really that appealing. All it does is reduce the attack of one opponent's monster and prevent it from activating its effects. But this card is actually a lot better, and while I don't think it's necessarily going to be viable right out of the gates, it is a card that I would keep in mind in the future, because we already have equip spells that want to be equipped to opponents' monsters. And with this thing, not only are you getting whatever effect those equip spells already had, but also you are preventing that monster from activating its effects. Maybe not the most broken card, but I think a lot of people missed that the second effect works with any equip card you control that's equipped to an opponent's monster, not just the monster you equipped from your graveyard. Then we have this new Paparazzi card. Oh my gosh, this thing is hilarious. I love this artwork. I know I mentioned it in yesterday's video as well, but I have to say it again. Dawn of Majesty has done a great job with the card artworks. I've really been impressed. Anyway, this is a Link 2 Dark Fiend monster. The arrows are left and right. It takes 2 effect monsters, so very generic, and it says, when your other monster is targeted for an attack, you can change the attack target to this card and perform damage calculation. When this card you control is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster, destroy that opponent's monster, and if you do, gain life points equal to half the attack it had on the field. So that does kind of matter. It is different than like half the original attack. If the opponent's monster had boosted its attack with card effects, you would gain a lot more life points than if this card said half the original attack. However, yeah, this card is not super crazy. I mean, it does kind of have the issue that all of the cards that are like this have, where when you have a card that redirects attacks to itself and then gives you a bonus effect, it means your opponent is either going to not attack, which might be good, I suppose, in some situations, or they're just going to find a way to get rid of the card before attacking. So I don't know how realistic it is for this effect to actually work, but hey, it is a generic Link 2 monster, and at least it does destroy the opponent's monster. I probably would not have even talked about this card if it only gained the life points, but I think that because it destroys the opponent's monster, it is at least worth talking about a little bit. And yeah, I did want to talk about it because the artwork is great. And here's that new anti-negation card, Swordmaster of the Bewitching Iris. Now this card was revealed earlier on in the week. I never got around to talking about it, but let's take a look at what it does. This is a level 8 light spellcaster effect monster with 2500 attack and defense. it says you can only use this card's 1 and 2 effects once per turn each. During the main phase, if a monster whose effects are negated is on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, you can activate one of these effects based on where they were special summoned from. If they were special summoned from the hand, you can special summon one monster from your hand. If they were from the deck, you get to draw 2 cards. That's pretty insane. And if they were from the extra deck, which is probably the most common place, you get to destroy one of those monsters that was special summoned from the extra deck, which is really nice. So this card is pretty interesting. I don't think we've seen a ton of cards that say something like, if a monster whose effects are negated is on the field, do this. Now this card isn't exactly a hand trap. I mean, it kind of feels like that, but it's not exactly one, because if you're going second and your opponent is comboing off, chances are you're not going to be able to special summon this card from your hand. Now it's possible, right? Because it doesn't require you to control a monster whose effects are negated. It only requires a monster whose effects are negated to be on the field. So if your opponent negated their own monster effect, well then yeah, you could special summon this card from your hand on their first turn. Quick note, I am editing this video right now and I just realized that I missed that if you used a card like Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence on your opponent's first turn while they're comboing off, you could theoretically summon this card from your hand on their turn. I already thought the card was great, but I wasn't really thinking about that interaction. So theoretically, if we're in a format where people are playing Veiler and Infinite Impermanence, this card gets a lot better. When you special summon this card, you can maybe attack over an opponent's monster, and then on their turn, when they special summon a monster from pretty much anywhere except the graveyard, you will get one of these bonus effects. So this card is really great in a lot of situations. You can use it aggressively to attack over a monster, you can use it defensively if you have it on your end board. I like this card a lot, and it is different from a card like Phantasme. It might seem similar at first. They are both big monsters that special summon themselves from your hand and have an interruption type ability while on the board, but they're used in very different situations. Phantasme is primarily used on the first turn of the game when your opponent is comboing off. You can special summon it to fix your hand and maybe even draw into side deck cards or hand traps. With this card though, that's not really the case. You're not really trying to summon this on your opponent's turn 1. Maybe that will happen, but probably not. So the cases where you're summoning this card are usually going to be on turn 2 when you're going second. Now this card isn't perfect. If your opponent negates the card and gets rid of it as well, like they destroy it or bounce it or banish it, then you won't be able to special summon this card. But if your opponent uses like cards that negate without destroying or banishing or bouncing, then this card looks really good. So I think this card is really great. I think it probably will see play, but it's not like overpowered. It's not suddenly like the best card in the entire game. And that's what I like to see. Cards that have uses in certain situations, and they are very good in those situations, but they're not good in every single context. So this card is pretty balanced in my opinion, and I think it is a really nice addition to Yu-Gi-Oh! Finally, we have As the Masters of Beasts Pleases, a continuous trap card, and I know I sound like a broken record, but don't worry, it's the last card in the video. Holy shit, this card's artwork is insane. It's alpha, of course, and there's a whole bunch of crazy things going on. We got tornadoes and lightning and lava. This artwork is crazy. I know I've said that a lot, so I apologize, but let's take a look at what this continuous trap does. Once per turn, at the start of the damage step, if your monster battles an opponent's monster in the same column, you can return all cards in your battling monster's column to the hand. Now, when I first saw this card, I missed that it was a continuous trap, and I thought it was complete garbage. And I'm not saying it's like great or anything, but it is a lot better as a continuous trap. It might might seem like you want to use this card defensively, where your opponent's monster attacks your monster and you bounce it back to the hand, but where I think this card really shines is when you use it aggressively. So you summon monsters in the columns of whatever you want to bounce. It kind of turns any monster into Neospatian Grand Mole, and that is pretty cool. Grand Mole isn't good right now, and obviously it hasn't been good for a while, but what if you could turn any monster into Grand Mole? Maybe that's a little bit better. This card probably won't see play. It reminds me a lot of Jelly Cannon, a card I almost played in Altergeist at a big event, but ultimately I decided it was a little bit too slow, and that's probably what's going to happen with this card as well. But cool artwork, pretty cool effect, and maybe it sees play in a slower format. Probably not, but it is a pretty interesting card. Anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below which one of these cards you are most looking forward to. I'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.